You know that feeling when you pull out of your driveway at night and your headlights are so yellow and clouded, they look like a pair of dying candles stuffed behind plastic, barely throwing enough light to see the end of your own hood? And you are out there squinting into the dark on a highway, doing 60 miles an hour, praying nothing jumps out in front of you because your lights are completely useless. And the worst part is, you already tried to fix this. You went to the auto parts store, you dropped $35 on one of those restoration kits with the little sandpaper discs and the buffing pad and the little tube of mystery polish, and you spent a full Saturday morning on your knees in the driveway, scrubbing and sanding and sweating and cursing, and for about 3 weeks, those headlights looked incredible. They were clear and bright, and you thought you had solved the problem forever, and then 60 days later, you walk out to your car, and those lenses are yellow again, and not just yellow, they are worse than before. They are cloudier, they are hazier, the fog is deeper, and you feel like an absolute fool because you did everything the kit told you to do, and your headlights look like they belong on a car that has been sitting in a field for a decade. And here is the thing they do not put on the box. Here is the truth that the restoration kit industry desperately does not want you to understand. The sandpaper they sold you did not restore your headlights. The sandpaper they sold you destroyed them. It scraped off the factory UV coating that was protecting your polycarbonate lens from the sun. And once that protective layer is gone, your plastic is naked and exposed, and it will oxidize 10 times faster than it ever did before. And now you are not just a customer, you are an addict. You are locked into a cycle of buying kit after kit every 90 days for the rest of the time you own that car. And that is not an accident. That is the business model. And today, that cycle ends right here because I am going to show you a 50-cent fix that is already sitting in your kitchen, and it works better than anything that auto parts store has ever sold you. And it does it without touching a single piece of sandpaper to your lens. What you need is a lemon and a spoonful of baking soda. That is the entire product list. Total cost, 50 cents, if you are being generous. And what this combination does to oxidized headlight plastic in 60 seconds flat is something the detailing industry has spent years hoping you would never figure out, because the moment you see this work with your own eyes, you will never walk into that restoration kit aisle again, and they know it. And that terrifies them. And I want you to hit that subscribe button right now before we go any further, because what I am building on this channel is a community of people who are done being farmed by corporations that engineer their products to fail. Companies that sell you sandpaper and tell you it is a solution when the sandpaper is actually the problem. Companies that count on your ignorance and your trust and your $35 every 3 months. And when you subscribe, you are joining thousands of car owners who have figured out that the best detailing secrets are not on a store shelf. They are in your pantry, they are in your bathroom cabinet, they are 50 cents, and they outperform a $35 kit every single time. So subscribe, tap the bell, and let us get into the chemistry, because understanding why this works is what is going to make you never fall for the kit trap again. Your headlight lens is made of polycarbonate, a type of plastic that is genuinely incredible when it is new because it is lightweight and impact resistant and optically clear. But polycarbonate has a serious vulnerability, and that vulnerability is ultraviolet radiation from the sun. And what UV does to polycarbonate over years of exposure is it triggers a chemical oxidation reaction in the top layer of the plastic. It breaks apart the polymer chains. It degrades the molecular structure, and the byproduct of that oxidation process is an acidic, yellowed, brittle layer of dead plastic that sits on top of your lens like a crust. And that crust is what is blocking your light. That crust is what is scattering your beam. That crust is what is making your car look 15 years older than it is. And here is the critical piece of chemistry you need to understand. That crust is acidic in nature. It is an acid-damaged layer, and acids are neutralized by bases. And baking soda is one of the most effective, mild bases you can get your hands on anywhere on this planet. Baking soda is sodium bicarbonate. It has a pH of around 8.3, which puts it solidly in alkaline territory. And when you press that lemon half into it and load it up with baking soda crystals and press it against your headlight lens, something extraordinary happens at a chemical level. The citric acid in the lemon juice and the sodium bicarbonate react violently with each other and produce carbon dioxide gas. And that gas does not just sit there, it erupts in thousands of tiny bubbles directly at the surface of the lens. And those bubbles are doing physical work. They are agitating the dead oxidized layer. They are getting underneath it and lifting it away from the healthy polycarbonate underneath. They are breaking the adhesion between the dead plastic and the living plastic, while simultaneously, the alkaline foam that is produced in that reaction is chemically neutralizing the acidic oxidation layer at a molecular level. It is detaching the yellow film from the surface. It is dissolving the bonds that hold that oxidized crust in place. And what you end up with is a foamy, slightly orange tinted residue on your lens that is literally the oxidation that has been lifted off the plastic. And you wipe that away, and underneath is clarity. Underneath is the factory polycarbonate, and your light shines through it the way it was designed to when it left the factory, and the entire reaction takes less than 60 seconds, and you did not touch a single abrasive to the surface of that lens. Now let us talk about what the $35 kit is actually doing to you, because I want you to understand this in detail so you never buy one again. Those kits come with sandpaper discs that are rated at various grits. They might start you at something like 800 grit and have you work up to 3000 grit. And what sanding does to a surface at the microscopic level is it creates scratches, and the finer the grit, the finer the scratches. But here is the thing. Even 3000 grit sandpaper leaves behind microscopic valleys and ridges in the surface of your plastic. And those microscopic valleys and ridges do two catastrophic things to your headlight lens over time. First, they create a textured surface that catches and traps dirt and debris, and every particle of road grime that settles into those micro scratches is a particle that scatters your light output and reduces your visibility. Second, and far more destructively, those micro scratches dramatically increase the surface area of your polycarbonate that is exposed to UV radiation, and more surface area exposed to UV means faster and more aggressive oxidation, and the compounding polish in the kit gives you a temporary clarity by filling some of those scratches with a light chemical filler and creating a glossy film over the top, but that film is thin and it breaks down in weeks under sun exposure. And when it breaks down, the UV hits that massively increased surface area of scratched plastic, and the oxidation comes back faster and harder than it ever would have if you had never touched the lens with sandpaper at all. The kit gave you 3 weeks of clarity and set you up for a lifetime of accelerated degradation. And the ceramic wipe they include in the higher end kits, the one they market as a UV sealant that supposedly protects your freshly sanded lens, that wipe is doing exactly what I described earlier. It is laying a thin coating over your newly scratched surface to temporarily hide the damage and give you the illusion of protection. And it lasts maybe 60 to 90 days under real-world sun exposure, and then it is gone, and your naked, scratched, unprotected plastic is sitting in direct sunlight with no factory coating and no ceramic coating, and it turns yellow faster than you thought possible, and you are back in the store, and the corporation just made another $35 off you. This is not a coincidence. This is product design. This is engineered obsolescence packaged as a solution. Now here is exactly how you do the 50-cent fix, and I need you to pay extremely close attention to every single step, because there is a critical warning at the end of this protocol that you absolutely cannot ignore or you will cause permanent damage to your lens that no kit and no kitchen hack can ever reverse. Take a fresh lemon and cut it directly in half. You want a clean cut right through the middle so you have a full face of exposed lemon flesh loaded with juice. Take a regular spoon and scoop out a generous amount of baking soda from the box. A heaping spoonful, you want a substantial amount. Press the cut face of the lemon directly into that pile of baking soda so the crystals embed into the flesh and the juice starts to activate the reaction. You should see it starting to fizz immediately. That is exactly what you want. That is your active agent. That is your chemistry working. Now press that loaded lemon face firmly against the hazy surface of your headlight lens and begin to work it in slow, circular motions, applying moderate pressure, not aggressive pressure. You are not scrubbing. You are massaging. You are letting the chemistry do the heavy lifting while you just keep the active surface in contact with the plastic and keep the reaction going. You will see an orange tinted foam developing on the lens, and you will notice the haze beginning to lift almost immediately. And within 30 to 60 seconds of working that lemon across the surface, you will see clarity returning to the polycarbonate right before your eyes. Work your way across the entire lens, reloading with baking soda as needed if the fizzing slows down, and make sure you cover every inch of the oxidized surface. Now here is the critical warning, and I am not exaggerating when I tell you that skipping this step will destroy your headlights permanently. You have a maximum of 2 minutes from the moment you start applying the lemon and baking soda mixture before you must rinse that lens completely. When you leave citric acid in contact with polycarbonate in direct sunlight or even in ambient heat, it does not just sit there, it begins to chemically etch into the surface of the plastic. It creates what is called a chemical burn in the polycarbonate, and the alkaline baking soda residue compounds this problem because as it dries on the lens, it concentrates and creates a caustic surface that continues to react with the plastic even after you think the reaction has stopped. The result of leaving this mixture to dry on your lens is a milky, white, permanent cloudiness that goes deeper than oxidation. It is damage at the structural level of the plastic, and it cannot be polished out, it cannot be sanded out, it cannot be chemically reversed, and at that point, your only option is to replace the entire headlight assembly, which depending on your vehicle can cost anywhere from $150 to over $500 per side. So the neutralization step is not optional, it is mandatory, and here is how you do it correctly. Immediately after completing your massage of the lens, take a bucket of warm soapy water with a generous amount of car wash soap in it and flood the lens. Do not wipe it, flood it, pour water over it, and use a clean microfiber to gently wipe from top to bottom, rinsing the entire residue away, and then flood it again with clean water, and do this whole rinse sequence within 2 minutes of your first application. No exceptions. Never let the mixture sit in the sun. Never walk away to answer your phone mid-treatment. Never let it dry. Rinse early rather than late every single time. Once you have rinsed thoroughly, dry the lens with a clean microfiber and take a step back and look at what 50 cents and 60 seconds of chemistry just did to a surface that a $35 kit spent an hour destroying. The clarity you are seeing is real optical clarity. It is not a coating. It is not a filler. It is not a temporary gloss over damaged plastic. It is the actual polycarbonate surface of your lens freed from the oxidized layer that was blocking your light, and your beam pattern will be sharper, your throw distance will increase, and your nighttime visibility will improve meaningfully because you are now sending light through clean plastic instead of through a yellow filter. After you have rinsed and dried the lens, if you want to extend how long it stays clear, apply a quality UV-rated carnauba wax to the lens surface, not a ceramic coating that requires a prepped sanded surface to bond correctly, just a simple UV protective wax, and it will create a sacrificial barrier between your fresh polycarbonate and the sun and buy you significantly more time between treatments. So let us put this in the simplest possible terms for anyone who is still on the fence about throwing out their kit. $35. 1 hour of labor, sandpaper that strips your factory UV protection, micro scratches that accelerate future oxidation, a ceramic wipe that fails in 90 days, and a product line that is specifically designed to keep you coming back and spending more money forever. Or 50 cents, 60 seconds, a lemon from your kitchen, a spoonful of baking soda from your pantry, a chemistry reaction that targets and dissolves the oxidation without touching the healthy plastic underneath, and a mandatory 2-minute rinse that protects you from the only real risk in the entire process. The math is not complicated, the choice is not difficult. The industry just counted on you never knowing this existed, and now you do, and that is the entire point of this channel. If you have a friend right now who is planning to spend their Saturday morning kneeling on their driveway with a restoration kit, grinding sandpaper across their headlight lenses, and setting themselves up for a cycle of accelerated oxidation and repeated kit purchases, send them this video immediately, share it right now before they buy that kit, because you might genuinely save them money, save them time, and save their headlights from a damage cycle that is genuinely difficult to reverse once it starts. And that is the kind of information that builds real community, real trust, real results, and that is exactly what we are here for every single